Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
All right, folks. Sorry about the technical difficulties there. Wait a minute, what the hell's going on? Yeah, it's not Christmas until Hans Gruber falls from the top of Nakatomi Plaza. Welcome to Real News Live. Is it Christmas? It's not Christmas.
It's getting close.
We're getting closer, but it's not Christmas.
I wonder if it's Christmas somewhere else in the world. Like, I don't know. Maybe Baghdad, it's Christmas tonight, Christmas Eve. I don't know. Let's find out. We'll have to wait and see and find out tomorrow. All right, everybody. Welcome to Toxically Masculine Tuesday on Real News Live. I am your host, Mike Barrett in Las Vegas, Nevada, joined as I am today by the usual crew. I am going to be drinking a little bit of Crown Royal Black whiskey tonight with some Dr. Pepper. I'm going to pour that while everybody else introduces themselves and what they're drinking. To the man to my immediate stage right, my left, I don't know, Dr. Brooks Agnew, the smartest man in North Carolina. Brooks, why don't you tell us how you're doing and what you're drinking tonight?
Doing pretty well. Started wiring the house today. I'm drinking ice cold water, just trying to rehydrate. It was a little drizzly today, but it still worked hard.
All right, and the man just below him, kitty corner to me, Steve Doran, the trail boss, somewhere in Texas, I believe, somewhere in Texas, and an award-winning police consultant who got special badge today.
I did.
From the Texas Rangers that he wasn't going to tell you about, but I'm now going to embarrass him and make him show. Come on, Steve, show everybody what you got from the Rangers.
I will never tell you anything ever again.
I'm not talking about
never again. Never again will I tell you anything.
I'm not talking about the baseball team. Welcome, Steve. What are you drinking? And by the way, I know you're
drinking organic grape juice.
Good for you. That's that. Well, you don't have to drink just because you're on the show with the boys. I want you to know that. All right. And directly next to Steve and immediately below me for the moment, I think we'll shift it around a little bit tonight, is TV's Blake Wally, the intrepid cub reporter from the Next Level News. Blake, somewhere in Tennessee, how the hell are you doing tonight? And what, in fact, are you drinking? I am adding my Dr. Pepper to my whiskey. What are you drinking?
Excellent. Well, I will be joining you with the whiskey, little Maker's Mark here. And it's excellent to be here. I'm excited about the show tonight as we head into this holiday season.
Oh, that Crown Royal Black, that is so smooth. Oh, that is good shiz. That is really good stuff. All right, guys, it has been a busy week. I honestly don't know where to start. There's a lot of stuff in the news. There's a lot of interesting things going on. Let's slide on over to posts that Mike Barra has liked today. And actually, let's start, I guess we'll go back to, I kind of want to get to this Kennedy thing. But let's start with that because it'll lead us into Luigi. And talking about Luigi, this is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in an interview this week talking about the vaccines, the FDA. I think this is really interesting stuff to get us started on the narrative. Let's listen to Bobby Kennedy Jr., who is going to be part of
yesterday. The chief attorney for FDA admitted that there was no reason. He admitted because he lost the case in court against the doctor, but there was no reason to discourage people from taking ivermectin. Ivermectin was a very, very devastating cure for COVID. It literally obliterated COVID. And, by depriving people of ivermectin, many people, millions of people around the globe died. And they didn't need to. There were cures for COVID from day one, very effective cures. But they didn't want that. They wanted the vaccine only. And there's a rule, a little-known federal rule that they were all aware of, which said that you cannot issue an emergency use authorization for a vaccine if there is an existing remedy that has already been approved for any use. So if they admitted that hydroxychloroquine or famotidine or ivermectin or any of the 25 existing therapeutic drugs that were very effective against COVID, if they admitted that any of them were effective, the whole vaccine project would have fallen apart. They couldn't have done it. And so they decided that they were going to pretend that there was no cure except for the vaccine.
All right. I think this is an extremely important statement for a couple of reasons, guys. And the first one, I think the first reason, and I'll start with you. I'm going to start with Steve, because you're an everyman, working hard kind of guy. You've been through a health crisis in your life and beat it. What he's saying is the pharmaceutical industry and their allies in Congress and the White House and in the media actively suppressed cures for COVID, which led to millions of deaths around the world, maybe hundreds of millions. I don't know. And we've known this all along. But what I find amazing, dude, is that they're actually allowing him now to talk about it, and nobody's really arguing that he's wrong. Isn't that pretty amazing? And Steve, what do you think ought to happen to the people that did this, knowing there were very effective therapeutics against
Well,
COVID?
I mean, let's face reality. We knew that there were very effective therapeutics back during the time that COVID was actually active, if it was ever really as active as they said it was. And for people to suppress information to make money at the expense of the American people and the people around the world, which resulted in their deaths and all kinds of other things, strokes, and now people have heart problems, all kinds of ill effects from the vaccine. They deserve the death penalty. I mean, to me, it's premeditated murder. It's no different than a hitman going out and whacking a CEO. But it's premeditated murder. They knew that people were going to die. They knew what the outcome would be by having people take this vaccine. So they need to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, which means death penalty.
I could not agree with that more. Blake, I don't know. You're the kind of a liberal member of the group here. You willing to go a little easier on these people, or should they have to pay the ultimate price for the scam that they perpetrated on the American people? And I'm including news reporters. I'm including people like Neil Cavuto, who I watched on Fox Business tell people, don't take hydroxychloroquine. This stuff will kill you. Give me a fucking break. He needs to go to the gallows. Blake.
Well, see, that's the other thing with hydrochloroquine. Sorry to interrupt, Blake.
Sure.
That's the other, it's totally harmless. Even if you can't OD on it, you can't. Even if it doesn't work, it doesn't hurt you.
Yeah, exactly. And ivermectin, I would say, is the same way. So
Right.
All right, Blake, hit it.
Well, I'll disagree on Neil Cavuto. I think he's just a useful idiot. He even does his little promos. He's naive. I don't think he gets it. But I think there are a lot of people that do, that fully knew, were completely aware of what they were doing and didn't care, pushing the pharmaceuticals. They'll do anything they're told for their big paychecks. So those people are probably going to have to face consequences, and the American people should certainly be interested in their demise, whether it's taking away their ill-gotten gains or putting them in jail, or perhaps absolutely putting some of them to death as a warning. It's pretty bad news. Yes, they suppressed a very cheap, safe, effective cure for all of this mess. But if they, cared about helping people, if we were all in the same team humanity, but it's not like that. Instead, they opted for the expensive pharmaceuticals and the experimental vaccinations. So it's a corrupt business model, and possibly something even more sinister if you think it's perhaps population control or something like that, which you can certainly make the case for. So these are crimes against humanity. So yes, the death penalty would apply to many people. We'll just have to take it on a case-by-case basis.
I agree. I was told in 2020, in January, around my birthday, 26th, by the way, the mechanic, a guy I call the mechanic, Alan, I almost said his name, called me up, and he said, now he's a person who used to work personal security for at least 2 American presidents. So worked for a lot of 2 and 3 letter agencies. And he said there's going to be a virus, and it's going to be genetically targeted to Asian people and Indian people. And I said, do you mean Indian like a turban or? And he said, turban. And I said, what's the plan? And he said, it's a test run. He said, first of all, it's to disrupt the election. Secondly, it's a test run to see if they can genetically tune viruses. And he told me that there were molecules in there that would bond to other specific cells that were mostly in Indo-Asian haplogroups, and it would affect them in a greater way. And apparently it actually ended up hurting black people more, but that's also having to do with
across the country, even more than that. All the emergency management agencies across the country actually did a mock exercise.
Yes.
For like 2 or 3 months before COVID.
Yep.
I mean, exact same thing. All the crap that they were spewing, how it was going to work, how they were going to set up locations to get the vaccines out, how people were going to be dying at their desks, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, and that was just like, I think it was 2 to 3 months prior to the
right down to the phony meat wagons they had out of in front of the New York hospitals, which were empty.
So
but
how would they know to do this test a couple of months before COVID hit the U.S.? I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. They're not that
really interesting question. So, Brooks, I've known all along that this was a fake pandemic, that this was a planned event. I think all of you other guys reporting on it have proven that. You're the one with the most knowledge of the origins of this. Is the thing that Kennedy did not talk about is what should happen to these people. And that's kind of where I want to go. But you have the floor now. Say what you want about this whole thing. And I think it's significant that we're revisiting this now. I really do.
Well, when you look at the scope of the deception, this is where the culpability really comes. Because there were illnesses, okay? People on cruise ships got sick, but they've always gotten sick on cruise ships. That's what always happens. When you take a cruise, you get sick because you pack 4,000 people on a boat that don't know each other. They bring their diseases from wherever they're from, and people go home with cruise crud. It's always been that way, but they used it to market their virus. When you normally see people die of the flu every season, that's what happens, old and young, and some people are hit more than others, depending if it's bird or pig or whatever kind of flu it is. Those deaths disappeared. They just piled them all into their COVID marketing. And then it was the ticker that ran at the bottom of the screen. Deadly coronavirus pandemic. Deadly coronavirus pandemic. It was drilled into us. And what did that do? It set us up to go stand in line and get the jab. Now, this is where the culpability really gets bad. And that is that now the data is in, or it's starting to come in from autopsies. It turns out 73% of the dead. Who's dead? Well, people that die. 73% of the dead can attribute the cause of death to the jab. Not 2%, not 1% or 5%, 73%. The cause of death, part of it, is the jab. That's where the culpability comes in. And that's what really pisses me off. And when Kennedy gets up and says what he said, you know, people like me, we really took the hit. They wiped out our YouTube channels. They took our TikTok, they took our Twitter channels,
or Twitter.
They took all of our money that we made. And I was desperately trying to get ivermectin into people's hands. I managed to do it, but it was very, very clandestine. And I still have only helped about 52,000 people. That's nothing compared to the 178 million Americans that got jabbed.
Okay. And the thing is, though, that gets me about this is, again, you know, Blake, I'm going to disagree with you. I was watching Cavuto when he said that. He was lying through his fucking teeth.
Yeah.
He knew very well that hydroxychloroquine was a cure. Now, I don't know if his motivation was that he hated Trump and he wanted everything to go badly so that Trump would get blamed for it and lose the election legitimately, which he didn't, or if his motivation was that, Pfizer and other corporations were huge sponsors of Fox Business, Fox Business. I don't know. I know he lied. I know he knew hydroxychloroquine was not only harmless, but would probably cure the symptoms, and he helped kill people. So I think he needs to be one of the ones that swings from a noose when the time comes. That's just my opinion and where I'm at. So I would invite you to, I'm sure the clip is out there. You can go back and find it. So what you didn't get to, Brooks, is what's the consequence for these people? What should happen to them?
Well, there's not going to be any consequence to them because that's what the global media empire did. They all were involved in it. So what can you do? You can't arrest 40,000 people that work in the news industry because they marketed the jab.
Yeah, you can't.
Nothing's going to happen to them. Nothing. Nuremberg trials would be crazy. It would be stadiums full of people that were involved. So I just think the truth needs to get out there and needed to get off my damn back for providing ivermectin to people without a prescription.
Right. Well, I was just in a stadium that fits 63,000 people in it. There were only about 40,000 Cardinals fans there, and the rest were all Seahawks fans. And so I say, yeah, let's roll everybody in Arizona into that stadium and let's hold our Nuremberg trials one at a time and have the gallows and the electric chairs just off the back of the field there. Take them out in parking lot once you're convicted. And I'm all for that.
But I was just following orders. I was just following orders.
Yeah, following orders. Yes. Yeah. I was just following orders. That's what they all said at the original Nuremberg trial. Oh, that's going to be a meme tomorrow, right? Mike Bear is a Nazi. I can see it already. So yeah, I definitely think something should happen. Now, this is interesting because now there's consequences happening. We had an incident this week that happened, Saturday, Friday? I forget what it was, boys, but there was a shooting in downtown New York. There was apparently a conference of some healthcare, like a healthcare conference, and the CEO of United Healthcare, which is a major healthcare firm around the country, not in Nevada, thank God, got shot dead on the street. Let's take a look at the video and let it roll.
1, 2,
Jam.
3.
2. I think the second one was a jam, and then he's going to go with a couple more.
Well, he shot him at least 4 times.
And then he just sort of casually walks away. Now he starts to move. All right, so this is the CEO of United Healthcare. This is the guy who shot him. They're saying his name is Luigi Mangione. A lot of people are pretty sure he's gay, but he's a rich kid from a rich family who has a manifesto. I think I have the manifesto marked, that he was arrested in a McDonald's with a fake ID. So, again, I'm going to look for the manifesto while we talk about this. First of all, I'm not sure this is the same guy, but it probably is. A lot of people are arguing it's not the same guy. I guess what I want to know from you boys is, let's start with you. Let's go backwards this time, Brooks. Or actually, Steve, you're the policeman. What did you think about this? I talked to the mechanic, and he said totally amateur job. This guy's hardly ever fired a gun before in his life, something like that. What did you think of the shooting, and what can you tell us about what you know about the case?
Well, I mean, part of the thing was that the equipment that he used was obviously faulty. He had to rack the slide with every shot, and that's because the suppressor wasn't set up correctly. But more than likely, he didn't buy it. He probably made it. So that was one issue there. Secondly, he's got balls. I mean, the fact that he stood there, even though the gun malfunctioned, he went through the failure drill, got it to work again, got all the shots off, casually walked away, which is exactly what you do in that type of situation, and you don't start moving till you get out of sight. He did everything right. other than have a good piece of equipment to start with as far as the gun is concerned. So there's going to be more to the story. They're probably going to suppress a lot of it, but I don't believe that he's just some whack job like I can't remember the guy's name that was in the cabin.
Whack job, rich kid. The Unabomber.
He's not like the Unabomber.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more to the story, and there's going to be a lot. And fortunately, with the age of the internet, a lot more information is going to be coming out in the weeks to come.
All right, Blake, what did you think of this whole thing? And we'll get into his motives in a minute, but what did you think of this whole thing? And apparently, Steve, what they're saying is part of the gun, some of the gun parts, I think the slider and some other things were 3D printed by this guy. And there are people, Blake, who suspect that the real reason for this shooting is to create this sort of false flag where they now have an excuse to go after people being allowed to 3D print gun parts for their guns. Do you think that has any credibility?
It's an interesting theory of them connecting those dots. There's something to that. I can see them staging something, but I don't know if they would take out their own healthcare CEO and pull off a stunt like this. That seems a little too much, but it is interesting. And yeah, that will bring up that controversy because that's also what I'm hearing. This was a ghost gun, or it was made so he doesn't have his name attached to it. There's no serial number if he bought it at a gun, the regular way. So I don't know too much about that, but I know that there is obviously a controversy if people are allowed to, build guns with 3D printers. I've never even seen one. I don't know how it all works, but that is pretty impressive technology if they're able to pull that off. Also, he's clearly wasn't a trained assassin here. He seems like he acted on his own. If he wasn't pro, he would have just used a proper firearm and then probably just got right to the base of his head and shot him in the back of the head. But he pulled it off and ran, and now we don't even know what's going on. We're still
Let's go back to that. Let's go back to that, Steve. Let's go back to that because, on the one hand, it was supposed to look like this guy was an amateur. On the other hand, like you said, he was very calm and acted in a very professional manner, I guess, and offing this guy. And do you have any suspicion that the guy in the hoodie and everything all covered up is not the same guy that they've arrested? You think there's...
That's what I said. It's a distinct possibility because if he was just some crazed high school kid, as soon as that gun malfunctioned, he probably would have taken off running. I mean, this guy, like I said, he had to have some type of training. He had balls of steel to literally, the gun malfunctions. He goes through the failure drill, not once, but 4 or 5 times. He doesn't run. He doesn't panic when the witness comes up over to the right, and he continues on his mission until the target is dead. And then he walks off calmly until he gets to a spot where he won't be noticed as much, picking up speed and getting out of the area. So it's not just some college kid, who decides he's going to get even with the man. I mean, that's what I said. There's way more to the story than they're letting on.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So let's look at his manifesto, Brooks, before I ask you. This is a portion of the manifesto from Luigi Mangione, supposedly. It says, to the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. By the way, he was a Biden voter. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. Of course not CIA or FBI or DOJ or anybody who might benefit from disarming the American public and not allowing us to manufacture our own guns with 3D printers. This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The Spiral Notebook, CAD is computer-aided design, by the way. Spiral Notebook, if present, has some staggering notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife or I believe he meant of trauma or traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the U.S. is the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly 42 in life expectancy. United is an indecipherable Apparently, this was recorded. Largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart, and Walmart. It has grown and grown, but has our life expectancy. No, the reality is these indecipherable have simply gotten too powerful. They continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space and frankly do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed, as an example, Rosenthal and more, I don't know who those people are, decades ago. And the problems simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty. And let me check. There's one or two other things. Yeah, I'm going to vote for Biden. He says so. All right, Brooks, what do you think of that? And I know you have some information about this statement that is pretty interesting. That makes it.
Well, yeah, there's been some analysis of the actual written manifesto, which, by the way, I thought it was kind of weird. They thought they found his backpack in Central Park, right? So they photographed it, put it out on social media. But then they find him in Pennsylvania, and he has another backpack. He has a backpack, and in the backpack is the murder weapon, his fake ID, $10,000 in American cash or $8,000 in American cash, $2,000 in foreign currencies, his passport, and this manifesto, multi-page manifesto. But the interesting thing about it is the manifesto went out on social media instantly. I mean, millions of people have read this thing now. What they can't understand is how this class valedictorian with a master's degree is such a bad speller. But if you take the words that he misspelled and you replace the letter that he missed, it spells out something. It's an old World War II code. They used to use it all the time in newspaper articles. This will come out. I promise you, it will come out.
Interesting stuff. By the way, a few of you folks, like Deb from Sacramento, I can't see you in the chat. I don't know if Jen's in here or not. So there's a few of you I'm not seeing. I'm not sure why that is. That may be a problem, but I apologize if I'm not acknowledging some of you folks, because I'm just not seeing stuff over here. So you're saying there is a lot more to the story. Steve's saying there's a lot more to the story. Blake, do you think there's more to the story? Just like the Vegas shooting and everything else that's happened.
Yeah, there certainly could be a lot more to this story that we're not being told. It is weird about the manifesto, and I agree. Is exactly what I was about to say. Is valedictorian. This thing is 130 IQ. He's an avid reader, so that would be really awesome if there was like a code into it. Not that this thing was awesome, but that would be an interesting component to this compelling story. Also, people are saying that maybe the backpack straps didn't line up, and why would he have all the evidence sitting there? I'm not seeing it all.
Yeah, a lot of times we hear stuff like, oh, the colors didn't match from this picture to this picture. A lot of times that's simply the equipment you're using. That's the camera phone or the security camera. So things get washed out and filled in, and colors go from warm to cooler. And so that's not necessarily indicative of anything. But why would a guy from a wealthy family with a great life throw his entire life away just to snuff some guy if he didn't have a personal stake?
Because if you read the manifesto, his mother suffered debilitating neuropathy. And it was the healthcare industry and their delays and their denies and their turning down her coverage that caused her to end up in debilitating pain. He also suffered from pain, went through his series of crap with the healthcare industry. Probably thought he didn't have much to live for, and so he would finally take his retribution against the one guy that everybody will pay attention to. Not the doctor that denied him the care, that guy that denied him the coverage. This guy is such a hero for the shareholders of United Healthcare because he tripled their profits based upon turning down care.
Wow. Interesting stuff. So more to come, I think, on that story. And the question I want to throw out to the group here real quick is, do you think this represents like a sea state change? Do you think that the people's attitudes about insurance companies, which have been sort of not great, but on an individual basis, do you feel like as a unit now, as a society, we're going to come to a conclusion that we gotta trash this system. We got to get rid of these guys. Any thoughts on that? Anybody? Blake, Brooks?
It's huge. It's huge. And they're turning this guy into a superhero. You know what they're calling him on the internet? The Adjuster.
The Adjuster. The Punisher. Blake, any thoughts on that? You're a cultural guy. What do you think?
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing, and some of it I agree with to some extent. I don't know too much about this CEO, but I know that the healthcare industry is completely corrupt, and it costs everybody about 3 times more than it should. So, people got crucified, like Taylor Lorenz, who is a terrible journalist, for feeling joyful about that, and Piers Morgan grilled her. But then I saw some other commentary by comedian Bill Burr, who I really like. And yeah, they make sense. It's going to be hard to stand up for these people. I don't want not to celebrate, vigilante justice and gunning these people down on the streets. But at some point, people are going to snap. They've already had enough.
The Death Wish movies with Charles Bronson were very popular. Very popular. By the way, as long as we're on this subject, I might remind everybody, link in the description, that there is, you can always go over and sign up. Go follow the link in the description for Impact Health Sharing, which is an awesome sponsor of this show and others. And it replaces basically individual health insurance. It works just like health insurance, but it's a million times better. Impact started out as a Christian company working through churches where everybody simply pays into the system and they simply use their money to pay for other members' care when they need it. It pays more than insurance does to doctors. Every single doctor takes it. If you ask them, they'll take it. They get set up in minutes on Impact Health Sharing. And on top of that, it costs about 1/3 of something like Blue Cross or Blue Shield or United Healthcare. So if you need to get some improved individual health insurance, go to Impact Health Sharing and sign up. And you can also sign up to the ACN family of companies and become a reseller yourself and make money for you and for me at the same time. Thought I would just throw that advertisement in there as long as we were on this subject. I did not plan that. It's just like, dude, why are you not sharing this? All right, so Impact Health Sharing link is in the description. Okay, the other major event, or there were several actually, very major event this week is that Daniel Penny, who was on trial for second-degree murder, I believe, because he choked out a crazed loon black dude on a subway in New York City to protect the other passengers from harm, was put on trial by, I think it was Alvin Bragg.
Yep.
New York attorney. Basically, he was put on trial because he was white. He was a good Samaritan. He wasn't armed because, New York has those no gun laws. And he strangled the guy, choked him out until he passed out, and he eventually died from it. But he went to trial. They should have given this guy an award for being a good Samaritan and defending all the passengers on the bus, but instead it's New York, so of course they prosecuted him, and he was found not guilty yesterday. Let's see what he has to say about the whole incident.
I mean, I'm not a confrontational person. I don't really extend myself. I think this type of thing is very uncomfortable. All this attention and limelight is very uncomfortable, and I would prefer without it. I didn't want any type of attention or praise, and I still don't. The guilt I would have felt if someone did get hurt, if he did do what he was threatening to do, would never be able to live with myself. And I'll take 1 million court appearances and people calling me names and people hating me just to keep one of those people from getting hurt or killed. I mean, I'm not a confrontational.
Okay, so that's what he had to say yesterday on Fox News. I guess, Steve, again, this is a law enforcement thing. What do you think about what he did? And isn't it kind of shocking that a New York jury acquitted this guy?
Well, yes and no. In states like New York and a lot of the East Coast states, the communist states, they have what they call, you have a duty to flee. So people have been convicted. Like as an example, bad guy breaks into a lady's house. She's there alone with her children. He's obviously there to rape, rob, and take advantage of the situation. Her husband is gone. She pulls out a pistol, kills the guy, and is prosecuted because the police decide that, even though she was upstairs, she had retreated. It's a duty to retreat, by the way. She had retreated all the way to their bedroom. Had she opened the window of the bedroom, there was a tree there that her and her children could have climbed down, went and knocked on a neighbor's door to get some additional assistance. She had no reason to kill the guy. Basically, it's the same thing in New York. Until the individual actually kills somebody or hurts somebody, they say that you have a duty to retreat or a duty to flee. So it's pretty common practice in those states. However, the last several times that they've done this, where they've actually arrested people like this young man and prosecuted them, the people in New York City went absolutely ballistic. And we're calling the Attorney General's office, the mayor, the governor, and we're going absolutely insane that these people are being prosecuted for not only protecting themselves, but for protecting their neighbors and other people in the general vicinity. So it's becoming more and more common that the juries are letting these people go.
Yeah, and that is, of course, as opposed to the stand your ground states where I guess you're allowed to defend yourself, and if you have to use deadly force, you have to use deadly force. So
like they call it the castle doctrine. Somebody enters your home. Once they cross the threshold, they've had it, and that's actually a misnomer too. If they're posing a threat and they're on your property, you don't have to wait for them to crawl through the window.
Yeah.
But the reality is it's been that way for a long time in those states. In fact, the case that changed a lot of the laws in New York City was where a guy, some people pretending to be city workers, gas workers, I think, gas or electric, conned their way into a couple's house, raped and murdered this guy's wife. They thought they murdered him. They thought they had beat him to death. Once they left the apartment, he ran in, got a gun, chased him down the street, and killed him. Well, of course, he was arrested for first-degree murder because they had already left his home. He was in no danger, blah, 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 blah. Well, the public outcry was so, the public outcry caused them to actually change the law and stop the prosecution against him, because the crime against he and his wife was so heinous that people are like, you've got to be kidding me, that you would be that stupid to prosecute an individual who is literally not only defending himself, but these monsters who definitely would have done it again. All he did was do society a favor.
Yeah, it ought to be actually, if you break into my house, I can shoot you dead, no problem. And there's no questions asked even about it. Nobody tries to entrap me by asking me if I thought my life was in danger and all that sort of shit. Blake, what do you think about this case? Every state in the union went more red in November, yet miraculously, there was no significant shift in the U.S. Senate or the Congress. I wonder how that happened. Except Colorado, which, of course, is the only state that also leaked the passwords to their voting machines. They're the only one that went a little bit bluer. So New York included in that went a lot more red. Do you think this is a trend that is going to continue? And gosh, is it even possible that in a state as blue as New York that people have just had enough of this shit?
I sure hope so, at least in parts of it. And this was an alarming case, and anyone that has been on the subway should, know this. That's always, can be very terrifying when you're not in a secure location. And as we can tell from listening to Daniel Penny there, that he is not like this aggressive, extroverted person. Like, he did not want to be involved in anything. He's a wallflower. People don't notice. He's just quietly minding his own business. And this guy comes on, he was totally out of his mind. He's crazy. He's got a criminal record, and he starts threatening everybody. And so he sprung into action like a good Samaritan would. And and all of a sudden they tried to throw the book at him. And I've heard that if it would have been a hung jury and there would have been a mistrial and they would have had to retry it with a new jury, that Alvin Bragg would have, cooked the jury to go against him. So that's huge as well. So yeah, but we were on the edge of our seats for a long time. Same with Rittenhouse. So
Yeah.
it's great that he's a free man because he deserves it. And shame on all the people that would showed up and try to demonize this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Brooks, does Alvin Bragg deserve to be? Wait, does Alvin Bragg deserve to be sued for civil rights violations?
I was just going to bring that up. It's funny you bring up Rittenhouse. One of the things about him is he's a very rich man. He's got a judgment now, and he's going to sell Whoopi's house in order to collect on that judgment. All these people in the fake stream news, these news actors that called Penny a homicidal maniac, they're going to pay. The same attorney that helped Kyle Rittenhouse is going to help him, and they're going to go after them for libel and slander. He's going to be a very rich man. This has to stop. And the only way to make it stop is make it hurt.
Yep. All right. Anything else we want to say on this to close out? Other than I'm glad the fucker is dead. Anybody? No. Okay.
Well, it's always good to see when people do the right thing, even though the whole world's against them, they still do the right thing. So it does, give me a little more faith in humanity than I've had in the last couple of years, that people are still willing to go toe to toe with the system in order to protect people who are protect the weak and people that don't have the ability to defend themselves.
Yeah, I mean, Liz Cheney's out there threatening a lawyer, saying, "Oh, if you go after anybody in the January 6th committee, we're gonna sanction you as a lawyer." It's like, I got a feeling there's some lawyers out there that only view that as like, "Oh, throw a little tuna on my sandwich, okay?" Yeah. Now I'm coming after you even more, you fucking bitch. So anyway, that's what I think. All right. Other things happened in the news this week. There was a coup in Syria. There was literally a deep state coup against the Syrian government. And what happened immediately after that, after Bashar al-Assad fled Syria, is that the Israelis started hitting all of the Syrian military installations, the military air bases, the naval bases, the army bases. Small video, but
isn't that a great sound? I love that sound.
Yeah, I love that sound.
يا لطيف يا لطيف يا رب تسترنا يا رب تسترنا.
Interesting stuff. So you got a lot of these different photos and videos and scenes of what's been happening to the Syrian military inside and around Damascus. So what essentially has happened, and there's another thread here I want to go get into in a second after we start the discussion and talk about it as a secondary subject. But here's the thing that gets me, and we'll start with you, Brooks, because you're the real expert in international affairs. I'm not so sure Assad is the bad guy here. Syria has had rebels now for 10 or 15 years, all CIA supported, all deep state supported, all Victoria Nuland and Joe Biden and John McCain supported, also supporting ISIS and ISIL, trying to overthrow the Assad government. And I'm going to just go back to this list again and remind everybody of why would they want to get rid of the government in Syria. Well, let me go through this first. As we remember, Assad has been accused multiple times of nerve gassing his own people. And we've all seen the pictures of the guy lying dead, all white, covered in concrete dust, from when the explosion happened and the chemical killed him. And then 2 seconds later, he's standing up with the guys who took the pictures, taking a selfie with them. And clearly he was not dead. Clearly he did not die of chemical exposure. And then Donald Trump in 2017, I believe, after he met with Vladimir Putin, was under a lot of pressure to strike back after another chemical attack by the Assad government, where he hit, I think it was 57 cruise missiles, which actually, and I'm going to tell you what I was told, is that in the soccer ball that Vladimir Putin gave to Donald Trump before Russia hosted the 2020 World Cup, 2018 World Cup, that inside that was a flash drive. And on that flash drive, among other things, was the money that Bill Browder stole out of Russia, the $1 billion, and ended up giving $400 million of it to the Hillary Clinton campaign. But what was also on there were Syrian mercenary, Russian banked targets, military bases for the fake Syrian rebels who were actually Russian banking cabal mercenaries. And that's who Trump hit. And then you ask yourself, why Syria? Why is Victoria Nuland want to get rid of Syria? And the answer is, as of 2007 or 2008, there were 2000. There were 5 countries in the world who did not have a central bank that was owned by either the Rockefellers or the Rothschilds. Those 5 countries are Egypt, which has had a coup, Iraq, which was invaded by the U.S., okay?
Libya,
which had its leader killed and another rebellion there, and Syria, and what's the other one, Mike? It's right on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember. Another Middle Eastern country. Russia. Sorry, Russia does not have a Rothschilds or Rockefeller-owned central bank. And who's trying to start World War III with Russia right now? Joe Biden and the cabal. So basically, as you look at those countries, they have fallen like dominoes. This has the stink, Brooks, of another deep state Victoria Nuland special to bring down Syria because they are not part of the banking cabal, or they were not until now. Any thoughts on that, or any thoughts beyond that? I'm going to go look up this other analysis. It was pretty interesting. Go ahead, though.
Well, I think that is a main part of it, but the other one is the route of the pipeline.
Yep.
There's an oil pipeline that's been wanting to come through that area for a long time. It's either going to go through Iran or it's going to go through Syria. Hillary and her people and the cabal, they want it to go through Syria, but not if Russia's there. So they wanted Bashar al-Assad out. They wanted Russia out so they could run the pipeline through Syria to Europe and control the energy flow to Europe. That is their main goal. Look at the 2 pipelines. It makes total sense. And we've been fighting wars on that stuff for 100 years.
Okay. Anybody else have any geopolitical thoughts on this? I think this is bad news. And I think, look, just when Trump came in and said, I'm going to stop the war in Ukraine, I'm going to put a stop to it right away. He's working on peace. And the CIA coup comes in and they manage somehow. I don't know why Russia backed out. I don't know what's going on, but it is interesting that Israel's taken advantage of this situation to destroy the Syrian military. Is it Blake? Has it been freed, or is it just coming under meet the new boss, same as the old boss? Is it just now another cabal-owned country with oil?
Yeah, it seems like that's what's going to happen now. Assad is no angel, but he didn't gas his own people. I'm not buying into that propaganda. They have their own interests in overthrowing that region for all the things that you've mentioned, and as well as just kind of hurting Russia, who's been kind of the ally. And I guess that's where Assad has fled to Moscow. But yeah, the people lived in peace in that country. I guess, Christians, Jews, Muslims, whatever. And now you're going to take Assad out and you're going to put in basically the moderate rebels, which are just radical jihadists that they have under their control, and now they can put in their central bank or what have you. Yeah, they've ran that playbook, whether it was Mossadegh back in the day with Iran, or Mubarak in Egypt, or Saddam Hussein in Iraq, Gaddafi in Libya. They pulled this stuff off in South American countries wherever they can. They'll put radical nutbags in there as long as they're under our control, as long as they're play ball or go with the banks or what have you. So no, Syria is not better off by any means. So it's unfortunate development, I suppose. Not in a way they can get rid of Assad, but not in this way where it's Newland CE, and proxy war BS.
And to me, it shows that the deep state is not defeated, as some people would have you believe. But on the other hand, they can still pull this kind of stuff off. The intelligence community. On the other hand, Steve, does this feel like it sets, with Iran now humbled? Iran is pushed back out of Syria. They're no longer an influence there. They have little to no influence in Iraq anymore. Are the Iranians contained? And does this in some ways set the stage maybe for peace in that part of the world, like was breaking out all over the place right before the election was stolen in 2020? What do you think?
Never. It sets the stage for them to calm down for a while, but there's never going to be peace. One of the things that you notice with the Middle East, if they're not fighting us, they're not fighting the Israelis, they're fighting amongst each other. It's just the way it is. It's been that way since the beginning of time. It's never going to end. They are just a violent, warmongering people, and that's what they do. As far as the deep state, taking control of them for a short period of time, it's no secret. The situation going on in the Ukraine, the situation going on with Russia, the situation in the Middle East is, the deep state wants to control all the agriculture and all the natural resources. And as long as there are certain people in their way, they can't do it. So, especially in the Middle East, as volatile as it is, and then with Russia standing their ground, that is the hardest nut that they've had to crack, and they haven't been able to crack it. They may get it under their control for a short period of time, but then they lose it, and some warlord comes along and messes up their plans.
So, Brooks, to me, this is interesting because, Israel benefits from this tremendously because now they can get rid of that military. But why didn't Putin stand up for this? And there's photographs and videos that the Syrian soldiers just didn't even fight. They took off their uniforms, they dropped their weapons, and they walked away. They just because the rebels have gotten nowhere for 14 years. All of a sudden, they just march in and take everything over. It looks like Putin abandoned Syria. Why would he do that? And why would he abandon Assad? Maybe he had an agreement to do this. What do you think? What's going on?
Assad and his family were already out of Syria. They were in Moscow. And this is a very typical Russian move. Whenever another side makes a move, they don't meet them at the front lines and fight them. They just retreat. And they just let them come in and take whatever they want. And then they go back in and pound the crap out of them. Now, this guy, Abu Muhammad al-Jolani, this is the guy that's actually running Syria for the next 45 minutes or so. He's an old ISIS guy that was trained, funded, and given all the intel by Hillary Clinton. Now, you notice that ISIS had the stuffings pounded out of them by Trump, and you didn't hear the word ISIS for about 2 years. Mm-hmm. These guys just retreat back into the crowd, and then they come back out again on their bull taco. But now, if you listen to Jolani as he's making his speech, now I don't speak Farsi, but I know Hitlerian speech when I hear it. I see the hand movements. I see the Nazi training. And we already have complaints coming out of Syria. This is a very multicultural country. Half of it's Christian. Christians and other peaceful people, quote unquote, civilians, but they call them rebels.
Yeah.
They're already being brought under the Islamist rule.
Yeah, this is the only country in the Middle East besides Israel where Christianity was tolerated and actually supported by Assad, who then there's rumors that Assad was Christian as well. So
He was a dentist, for crying out loud.
so having now we've lost I guess a Christian foothold in the Holy Land, and that's
going
not
to be
good.
bad. The Christians always pay the price. Watch, between now and Christmas, it's going to be a genocide all over again.
Great. And they're going to leave that bloodbath, that mess, to Donald Trump to go clean up. And I think that's part of the plan.
Trump said, let him fight. We have no dog in the fight. He said, let him fight.
Yeah, well, it's not I don't see this how this can be a good development for the Middle East or the world in general. But maybe Steve, you're right. Maybe we need to just like let them kill each other. I don't know. Okay.
The reality is you can only do so much. These, like I said, from the beginning of time, it's the way it is. If they, whenever there's peace in the Middle East, all you got to do is set your watch for about, set your timer for about 10 minutes and trouble's going to start again. It's just the way it is. They can't, it's like it's bred into them. They cannot be peaceful.
I think you might have a point there.
I mean, look, all you got to do is look at history. Look at, look at what happened last week and the week before and the week before that. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Well, who's going to invest money in developing Syria? Nobody.
Nope. Yeah. Not if it's an Islamic state. But it's interesting because it may not be, because Iran has lost a lot of influence there. So what kind of state will it become?
They're going to lose even more influence when Trump cuts off their money and puts the sanctions back on them. Iran is going to implode.
Well, that'll be interesting. Makes the Iranian rial worth a lot less.
Well,
all right.
The sad part is the sad part always is that it is the civilians and always in the Middle East, the Christians who suffer. And so, if I were king, things would be different and carpet bombing would be in order on a regular basis. But the reality is there's only so much we can do to eliminate, those types of threats against the Christian people. And then Donald Trump was very successful in doing it during his last term in office. So hopefully he can do it again in this situation.
Carpet bombing. How about tactical nuclear weapons? That would be where I'd go. All right. Two more issues I want to talk about. Fake news and flying saucers. That's what we're going to talk about here before we get out of here. Today, the Guardian UK, I believe it was, dailymail.com, ran a hit piece on Donald Trump Jr., who's supposed to be engaged to Kimberly Guilfoyle, who, by the way, this afternoon was named the ambassador to Greece. So I got a feeling that if they get married, they're not, I don't know if Don and Kimberly are going to be spending a lot of time together. Exclusive photos show engaged Donald Trump Jr. holding hands with a Palm Beach it girl. So they published these photographs, and let me just tell you, these are very interesting photographs of him walking around. You don't normally hold hands with somebody you're not in a relationship with. On the other hand, where is it, Mike? On the other hand, if you start looking at the pictures, this is the first picture. It's a little odd because as you look at it in a little bit more detail and get in a little bit closer, there's some things about it that don't look right. Like, for instance, why the fuck Trump Jr. alien fucking hands with 27 fingers on them? This is and I think if you go back and look at it also, Blake, his left hand looks completely fake. It looks like a prosthetic hand or something. This is fake. And the question I guess I want to ask is, why did they decide to fake this today? Are they just trying to cause whatever problem they can for the Trump family? Blake, let's start with you. Are they just trying to cause whatever? But and also it's so clumsy because AI right now so far is pretty terrible at making hands. Obviously, they're going to get better within a year or so and be able to fake images like this better. But what do you think is the story behind this? What's the political play going on here? Are they trying to make out Don Jr. to be as big a scumbag as Hunter Biden, or what?
Yeah, anything they can do to, hurt the Trump family, they'll do. I mean, I don't know who started it or if it was just innocent. Somebody had like a AI program create a picture and then people just want to believe it. And then boom, the lie is all the way across the world. because they love to jump on that stuff. Anything they can to destroy, target, or just take I don't know, as a distraction so they feel like they're winning on something. So it's been a tough month here since the election. So I don't know. I'd have to get more information on that. But yes, it looks like a rumor, and the fun of the AI and the pictures, and people just have to be discerning about these things.
And just for the record, the pictures of the people having anal sex in the congressional committee room, that wasn't AI. That was real.
Yeah, exactly. And that's okay, but this apparently is not. Carpet bombs, you're sick. Yeah, fuck that. Let's nuke them, Gary. Let's just nuke the fuckers off the face of the earth. I mean, with me on October 8th, Gaza would have been non-existent. Gaza would have been a glass parking lot by the time I got done with it. Why mess around? Anyway, okay, so Steve, should there be consequences for this? I suppose Donald Trump Jr. can sue them for defamation and for creating fake pictures. It's pretty obvious he's got a case, but is it worth it? And shouldn't there be more consequences to go after people that do this?
Well, I mean, this sensationalistic journalism it's been around for hundreds of years. I mean, it's the kind of stuff that goes on. I mean, look at that stupid paper in the grocery store, that talks about aliens and, this one being a homosexual. I can't remember what it's called.
Alien stuff is crazy. Yeah. The National Enquirer and things like
National Enquirer. I mean, they've been doing this stuff forever. It's going to continue. As far as Donald Trump.
You mean that B-17 on the moon is not real?
No, the B-17 is not real, Brooks. No.
But,
did not.
But I mean, this kind of thing has been going on for a long time. It's not going to stop. And, the reality is all the Democrats are going to go, oh, what a horrible person Don Jr. is. He's cheating on his fiance. They're going to believe it no matter, even if it comes out and the person who created the photograph says, hey, I made this up. It was supposed to be a joke. And, it's not real. They'll still say that it's real and that he's a scumbag and do everything they can to undermine the Trump family.
Yeah. Brooks, any thoughts on this one? And by the way, there's people saying in my Telegram chat, oh, Kimberly Guilfoyle's she's a tranny anyway. She's not really. Okay, look, I'm just going to tell you, I have naked pictures of Kimberly Guilfoyle, okay? She's not a tranny. Go, Brooks, hit it.
She's a very smart attorney, for one thing.
I guarantee you. She's
also, definitely, if she's a tranny, I'm gay. That's all I can say about that.
Really? You got nothing else?
I think Kimberly Guilfoyle is brilliant. She's beautiful. I'm glad she's with Donald Trump Jr. Way better than Gavin Newsom, her old ex-husband.
Yeah.
I think that she's a great lady.
And you guys remember when this reporter went around to these college girls and asked them to show them a picture of Donald Trump Jr. hunting, because he's a hunter and they tried to go after him for that. And he's sitting next to a triceratops. They're like, well, what do you think about Donald Trump Jr. killing a triceratops? Is that wrong? She's like, oh, that's so awful. It's such a sweet animal. It's a triceratops. Okay, it's a dinosaur. Oh, my God. She was once married to Gavin Newsom. She has a great pair of earrings. Yep. That's how I would describe. That's how I would describe the pictures I saw. All right, I promise you flying saucers. Well, we got flying saucers. Let's scan in on what has been going on over New Jersey. This is a genuine mystery, kids. Mystery stuff flying around in the skies over New Jersey.
You see, Trump National Golf Club isn't far from the Picatinny Arsenal military base, which some thought may be behind the drones.
Can you turn that up, Mike?
Tells Fox News, quote, while the source and cause of these aircraft operating in our area remain unknown, we can confirm that they are not the result of any Picatinny Arsenal-related activities. Now, Fox News also spoke with Congressman Jeff Van Drew of New Jersey. He said it doesn't appear the pilots of these drones are breaking any laws, rules, or regulations. They're staying out of restricted airspace, which he says is an indication that they know what they're doing.
I do not believe it's the U.S. military, and if it is, and if they're doing exercises, shame on them for the disorganized way they are doing it. I don't believe it is them. I am hopeful it is not a foreign adversary, yet I do worry about that.
Yeah, and this will be a main topic of conversation at a House hearing on Capitol Hill today that starts at 2 o'clock, focused on the safety implications of drone technology. And Congressman Van Drew tells Fox that the United States is behind, specifically China, with this technology, and that we need to do a better job of defending against and integrating drone technology. We'll send it back to you, Dana.
Interesting call on that. And there's a couple other videos that I think are really interesting about this that I wanted to show you guys. Where am I? They are not in there. I'm not on the right thing. Let's go to my.
Well, while you're looking for that, there was a recent video came out about 2 hours ago. A guy took his own drone and flew it up to get a better picture of the drones that were flying over New Jersey. When it got close, his drone was disconnected by the other drone. I guess, jammed it.
Right.
And it fell out of the sky, and he's looking for it right now. And the FBI came to his house because he flew his drone up there in that airspace. And they're all out looking for that drone now because they want to see the footage on that. And the other one is that one of the drones appears to have crashed. There are cops everywhere, and the field is on fire.
Yeah, that's pretty fascinating stuff. And there's this video of a guy shooting a laser at them, and then this is time-lapse footage of the movements. Now, I'm an aerospace guy, so is Brooks. There is one thing about this video that's very revealing that I would like to point out to everybody. Let's see if Blake or Steve can figure out what is important about this video.
The way they're moving?
Yes, you're on track. Everything is in a straight line.
Right.
It is all vectored. Now, flying saucers, UFOs, they do crazy stuff. They move around. So I had people on UFO UAP Twitter this week telling me these were definitely alien spacecraft and UFOs and all of this stuff. And I'm like, dude, they're all moving in a straight line. They're all behaving like aircraft, like conventional aircraft. And there's some videos out there. There's some pictures of basically what are, military drones, including Chinese military drones, that look just like some of them. If you look at them up close, they look like airplanes, but they hover. Well, how's that possible? Well, then there's a picture of a Chinese drone. I'll try to find it. That actually has lift jets in the wings, so it can go straight and then it stops and it can hover on the propellers. So let's say they're not alien spacecraft. Then it becomes a little bit scary to me, Blake, because we have hundreds of thousands or even millions of foreign military-aged men in our country through the open southern border in the last 4 years. Is it possible, do you think, that these drone swarms could be meant to intimidate or threaten, I don't know, even President Trump, because it's near his Bedminster housing development there?
I mean, it certainly could be. We just found out the hard way, well, at least Ukraine did, that Russia has some pretty sophisticated weaponry, and they didn't even have to use nukes. The Oreshnik, the hypersonic missile system or whatever they have. We had the Chinese like air balloon drones that went across. This could be, sending us a message again. People have speculated, getting into the conspiracy theory of Admiral Byrd and going to Antarctica, and that they sent alien technology to the White House back in, 1940s or something to send us a message when they have the high ground with their technology. It could be a warning like that. It's definitely not my expertise. I find it fascinating, but I really don't have an opinion on that. I don't want to go on record with anything until I know more, but certainly an interesting story.
Steve, do you have any opinion about these drones? And if they're military and there's somebody else's military, isn't that a little bit upsetting and nerve-wracking?
Well, I think they do belong to someone else's military, and I think that they're running a test. And, we're seeing that more and more. Since the Biden administration took over, is the first time that we have allowed foreign countries to invade our airspace with, weather balloons and other types of aircraft. And so I think while Biden's still in office, they're pulling another stunt and doing some tests before Trump gets in and blows them out of the air.
Yeah, the thing that's fascinating about this, Brooks, beyond, obviously everything's moving in a straight line, which is interesting because military drones like the ones I just showed you a picture of don't have to move in a straight line, but these all do, which I think is indicative of, first of all, I think that's sending a message we're not alien spacecraft. But why isn't there a reaction to these? Why isn't the U.S. military doing anything? That implies to me that Joe Biden is in on this somehow, and there's something more nefarious to it. What do you think that might be?
Well, I don't know, but I'm with you. I think helicopters should be up on patrol. Like they do patrols, go up there and patrol. And if they're flying as low as people are saying, 20, 30 feet above the treetops, take a couple goose loads at them, man.
Yeah.
These are BBs in a shotgun shell for people who don't know what a goose load is. Shoot some of the damn things down.
You know what my response is to alien and foreign objects and UFOs? Shoot it down, put it over the hood of your car, drive it down Main Street.
Right on.
Let's get Secretary of State Blinken in to handle this problem. Secretary of State Blinken, there he is. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's Krennic. That's what's the Chancellor Krennic? I forget his name. All right, guys.
Rogue One.
We don't know what he is. We don't know what these things are. But yeah, I'm all with you. Let's get out to the coast out there and bring our rifles and start shooting them little suckers.
Not rifles; those go too far. But goose loads, totally safe.
Okay, all right, yeah, guys. I'm not going to worry about Christmas Eve right now, but I don't think we'll be doing a show on Christmas Eve. I think everybody's going to enjoy their Christmas Eve with their families, so probably not going to do that. But we do have a show next week. Also, I'll be on with Jen tomorrow for Tell the Truth Wednesday, and Whiskey and Wisdom with the original Mark Z tomorrow night, where we drink some more whiskey and share some more masculine wisdom. And I want everybody to know how fucking macho they are out there. You guys get out there, you be a man, you make all the decisions, you drive, you decide where you're going to eat. You don't ask your woman. She doesn't want to make a decision about where you're going to eat. You decide where you want to eat, and she can come along for the ride, and she will love you for it. That's my dating advice for right now. I'll give you some more tomorrow on Whiskey and Wisdom with the original Mark Z. Speaking for Dr. Brooks Agnew, TV's Blake Wally, and the amazing trail boss, Steve Doran. Have a very, very masculine week, and we will see you next Tuesday. That's a little Hillary Clinton joke there. Bye-bye.